Hello there, and welcome to Uncut with Gina and Sukhdev. I'm very, very thrilled to be able to introduce our next guest to you, who has a wealth of experience. I'm going to read her bio because that's the best way of capturing what she's been up to. So, ghostwriter turned business book expert, Mitali. Now, you tell me how I'm to pronounce this. I'm really sorry.
I really was waiting to see what you did with it. I really was. Do you want to try it? That's actually not too bad. It's Deypurkaystha. So it's very close. You did well.
So Mitali Deypurkaystha, ACA, the authority creator, transforms coaches, consultants, and speakers into thought leaders by becoming published authors within 90 days. Featured on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, she's helped her clients generate over $5 million in additional business revenue. As the recipient of coaching and mentoring for weight issues, addiction, mental health, business, and career, she's made it her life's mission to help coaches, consultants, and speakers succeed. Her favorite business book is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. I love that too. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Lovely to have you.
Thank you.
So Sukhdev, I'm going to hand over to you.
Okay, so thanks for being here, Mitali. You and I at the end of 2020, and we continued on into 2021, which has been awesome, and we have some amazing things happening throughout the year. If you could share, I know when we met, you shared a little bit of your story about some of the struggles you went through. People see like some of the things that you're doing now, you know, raising $5 million for this company and that company, but it wasn't always like that for you. So can you share how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, I think my story is just one of not giving up. I guess that's the main thing. So I mean, I came from a really good background, loving parents, a great family. You know, they looked after me. Maybe wrapped up a little bit too much in cotton wool, but that tends to happen in Indian families as well, especially with girls. You do get kind of wrapped up and not allowed to see the world. And I think maybe if my mother, I'm pretty sure my mother would now say if she had a time again, she would give me a little bit more freedom so then I wouldn't go so crazy like I did. Because what ended up happening is I went to university at the age of 18 so I'm from Gateshead near Newcastle in the northeast of England, and I went to university in Manchester, which is about 200 miles to the west of me. And I guess I just went crazy, like a typical 18-year-old who thinks she knows everything but knows very, very little in reality. I just suddenly had this newfound freedom to go wherever I want. And I ended up just going down a very dangerous path. I was hanging around people that I shouldn't be hanging around with. And I ended up addicted to amphetamines and ecstasy pills, which then started to unravel my life. I lost my place at university, which meant I lost my accommodation. And then I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to tell my parents what happened, because I was just ashamed of myself, really. So I ended up homeless for about a year or so, in and out of different homeless shelters. And that was my first experience of meeting coaches, consultants, mentors. I call them angels. I think the word angel is actually overused now. It's really annoying. So whenever I use it in my head, it's like, ugh, angels. But they really are. They are kind of angels in human form. A lot of people talk about family and friends and how important they are. And I'm not saying they're not. You know, family and friends are really important. But I do kind of think with friends and family, you think they're the people who know you the best, but they don't, because you hide a lot of yourself. I definitely hid a lot of myself to my parents because I didn't want them to know that I'd completely thrown away, you know, all these things that they were for. My dad put me through a private school, and we were not rich by any means. We lived in a very tough part of Gateshead, but he scraped together all the money that he could to send me to private school. And then within a year of me going to university, I've lost my place. I'm a drug addict and I'm on the streets. I mean, how do you tell your parent that when they put you through private school? So this is the thing with friends and family. You can love them to pieces, but they don't really know you because you hide so much of yourself from them, because I guess you want to protect them from the truth. Whereas with coaches, consultants, mentors, or people like that, They really are angels. You could be, if you allow yourself, you can just completely open up to them and allow them to help you, allow them to rebuild your life. And I was so lucky. I just had an amazing team of addiction counselors, a life coach, a fitness coach as well. I just had a team of people helping me. And I look back now, and if I didn't have those people, I'm not entirely sure where I'd be in my life. And they've really inspired me. So that was my first experience with coaches and consultants and mentors. And then throughout my life, I've kind of had like a dips in my life. So I'd have like a high, and then I have a dip. So I had another dip. I got clean, and then I ended up going back to university, got my degree, got my master's, started working as a freelance journalist, experiencing a natural high, which I was really happy about. And then 2001 comes, all journalists start losing their jobs because all these editors are very short-sighted and they think no one's going to read newspapers and magazines anymore. Everyone's moving online. So that I started to spiral again. This time, thankfully, I didn't turn to drugs, but unfortunately, using drugs in my earlier time meant I still have this. I've damaged my brain permanently. And it's something that I just have to deal with. If you've abused drugs to the extent that I have, your brain will never 100% go back to how things were. So in 2001, I started having these depressive episodes. Now, thankfully, this time, because I recognized it, I didn't go to street drugs. I went to a doctor, but I was prescribed antidepressants because at the grand old age of 26, I thought my career was over. All I ever wanted to do was write. And here I was redundant and I couldn't get a job anywhere else because all journalists were losing their job. And then I got myself back up again, as you have to. So I started doing loads of different kinds of work. Then I lost my dad in 2007. Again, I started spiraling, had to be put back on antidepressants. And then because of the guilt that I felt of, not being able to fulfill my dad's wishes, which was, he always wanted me to be a doctor, and I didn't want to be a doctor. So in 2007, after he died, I decided, hey, I'd like to be a doctor. So I went back to university. I keep going back to university. And I did a degree in psychology. I worked in psychiatric wards for 5 years. I worked in a prison for 6 months. And the view was to become a clinical psychologist. But again, there was just something inside of me that was saying, no, writing is the thing that you really want to do. But the truth was, Sukhdev, I just didn't know how to get back into it. How do you get back into something like that? And then the light at the end of the tunnel was in 2013. Google, believe it or not, became my savior. I know people love to hate Google, big corporate that doesn't pay the taxes that it's meant to, boo, hiss, that kind of thing. But strange enough, Google was my savior. They brought out an update in 2013 called the Panda update. You're probably aware of it. And it meant that website owners can no longer rely on cheap writers from Eastern Europe or India or, the Southeast Asia. They needed to have native writers again. And that was that was my way back into writing. And then I just started to work like a demon. So I started writing articles, websites, Amazon listings, anything I can get my hand on. And then that moved on to being able to write landing pages and sales pages and email marketing. And then one of my copywriting clients said, hey, would you like to write a book for me? And I said, I've never written one, but if you're patient with me, I'll give it a go. So I did. And that's where I am. So I'd love to say that was all planned. None of it, by the way. Not any part of my life was planned. The only thing I would say is I just never gave up. Whatever I was doing, I was just like, this is the lemons I've been given. How do I turn this into lemonade? And that's all I did. That's all I'm sure in the future, if my life falls apart again, which it probably will do, I'll just get back again. That's just all you have to do.
I find it interesting that you talk about there's no plan. And what strikes me is that every bit of your experience, the great stuff and the not so great stuff, has given you such an insight. It's given you resilience. It's made you who you are. And I would suggest to you that actually, for all the pain and the difficulty, that you are in so much a different place to help others than you would be if you had gone to university and it had all gone swimmingly and, you know, life had gone according to the so-called plan, rather than you have had a rich experience. And what you've demonstrated beyond a shadow of a doubt is it's not how many times you knock down, it's how many times you get up that matters.
Absolutely. And I would also say that I think the affinity I have with coaches and consultants and speakers comes from that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I've told you in my early life, you know, I needed addiction counselors and a life coach and a fitness coach. But then even recently, at the moment, I have 2 business coaches. Back in 2013, I needed a coach at that point because I think I'd realized that clinical psychology wasn't what I wanted to do. But I was just having this crisis of confidence. Like, what do I do with my life? You know, I'm now at this stage, I'm now in my mid-30s. This is not a good age to not know what to do with your life. I think it's okay but you kind of have this impression that in your 30s, you should have it all figured out. But the truth is a lot of people don't.
I'm going to challenge that. That's a belief.
Yeah.
And I know many people in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s who are finding their true purpose in life.
Yeah.
And, you know, we create this blueprint of how life should be. You know, by our time we're 30, we should be sorted out. By the time, you know, that blueprint acts as a straitjacket. And the trouble is
something to beat yourself with as well, because really, you know, whose standards are those in the first place? It's your life. So really, you should create your own standards. But we don't, sadly. And at that time, I'm in my 40s now. And I think finally I'm realizing that I don't really need to live up to anybody's rules apart from my own. But at the time, I really did feel like a bit like a failure. So I needed a coach at that point.
Yeah.
So I've relied on coaches, consultants, mentors, speakers as well. There's been several times in my life where I've just went to see a motivational speaker at some event, and they've just, you know, sometimes I've never even had a one-to-one conversation with them because I never got the chance. You know, sometimes you go to these events and there's 1,000 people there, and you just can't even get close to the speaker. But just hearing them has just transformed me. It's just made me go from, you know, thinking, what's the point of all this? And then I hear them and think, yes, I'm going to do it. And I don't think some of these people realize, but I don't think many of them realize the effect, the real effect that they have on people. You know, they have the ability to truly transform people. And I feel it's now like my life's mission to do whatever I can to help any of those people. I think what really hit me the hardest was last year. I found out from the International Coaching Federation that 82% of coaches go out of business within 2 years. And that just kind of made me very, very sad, because I just thought I don't want to live in a world like that, really.
It's interesting. I was just working on another book at the moment, which is around empaths and how so many of them fear charging. That they've been brought up in a paradigm which says if you're helping people, you should do it for free. And yet they would go to a garage and expect to pay to have their car serviced. And yet somebody who's servicing their life and helping them, that there is an expectation, because there's a sort of spiritual context to that, you know, there's something wrong about charging, and how this holds many people back. But I'm really fascinated in terms of, you know, if you talk us through your helping coaches, and I think you and I, it would be great to have a conversation outside this recording. Tell us, what is it that you do that makes the difference? How do you, because this program's all about influencers, and you are somebody who has significant influence in a whole range of ways. How are you using that, and to do what, and in what way?
Okay, so as I said, from 2013 to 2014 onwards, I got back into writing. So because at the time, I just said yes to everything, you know, so anything anybody wanted me to write, I just said yes. And the wonderful thing about that is I was able to experience writing in so many different capacities, but also staying in touch with my clients. But I was able to find out the impact of what I was writing. So as I said, I've written blog posts, articles, sales pages, I've done leaflets, I've done posters, anything you can think of written at some point in my life, I've actually written it. And then I realized it was only last year, it was sort of just after the pandemic started. And I guess I stopped traveling. I'm a real traveler. I like to travel to 10 or 11 different places in a year. And the pandemic just stopped me last year. So that gave me time to sit in Gateshead and think, to actually just think.
Yeah.
And, just me, myself, and my brain, and just think about things. And I thought, let me just speak to some of my previous clients. And I started to just go back to some of the clients and, say, tell me about what this piece of work did for you and what that piece of work did for you. And the one thing that kept coming up, the one piece of content that made the biggest difference was a book, which surprised me because in my head, I thought it would be the sales page. Because I thought that is it's black and white, isn't it?
Yeah.
People hit the buy button and buy or they don't.
Yeah.
So in my head, I thought the sales page would be the most powerful piece of content that I could create. And it turned out that overall it was the book. And the reason why is everything else is stuff that everybody has. Every coach has a website. They have leaflets, they have business cards, they have email sequences, they have sales pages, they have landing pages. But how many of them are a published author?
Yeah.
And the more I researched it, the more I realized that's the game changer. If a coach or consultant or speaker writes a book and they leverage it correctly, that's when their earnings go through the roof because they can charge more for what they do. They also start being able to collaborate with other people and start getting other secondary and tertiary income streams. Most coaches only literally have that one income stream. They coach and they earn, and that's it. But when you start becoming an authority, you start building all these extra income streams. So if one dries up, you're not worried because you've got all these other income streams. So that's when it was last year, being stuck in this house in a pandemic, unable to travel, with Google very helpfully telling me once a month, oh, you were in this country this time last year. Thank you for that, Google. I don't really appreciate you telling me once a month where I was this time last year, sunning it in some lovely tropical island or wherever I was. And that's when I thought this is really good, because by that point I'd written 7 business books. And all 7 of my clients have really gone to the next level with their business. They are seen as thought leaders or authorities in their respective fields now.
Brilliant.
And my idea was, okay, well, the last book that I wrote, the 7th book, I wrote it in 6 weeks. So I've got it down to an art form now. And I just thought, what if I stopped writing these books and actually recorded the structure so other people can just follow the structure and write their own books? So that's where the idea came about. And I really do believe, I say it in my own book, that authority is something that you decide that you are. There's a lot of coaches and consultants are waiting for this magical authority, saying, it's again, these expectations. I need to get this qualification, or I need to be in business for so many years, or I need to be earning a certain amount of money. They're waiting for this outside thing to give them.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because it's a conversation I've had with many coaches that I've worked with, where, they are the perpetual student, and I think it's a form of, it's almost a defense. I don't have to be out there being a beacon of light because, I've still got this course to do, or I need to do this. And in fact, twice last week, with 2 different clients said the conversation was, isn't it interesting how often the same conversation comes up with different people? When's enough going to be enough? You are powerful in your own energy and your own expertise. When are you going to own it? And of course, we've been influenced and we've been taught by all of these other people. But you've got great stuff. When is it going to be enough? When are you going to believe you are enough?
Exactly.
And allow that to speak for you.
Exactly. My sort of litmus test is, do you have paying clients who are coming back to you again and again? If you have that, you're good enough to be an authority on your subject, because people don't just say, they can spend money on you once accidentally.
Yeah.
But they will not come back again and again if they're not getting value and transformation from you. So if you have paying clients who are coming back to you again and again, you are good enough to be an authority. And the fastest way to be an authority is to become a published author.
I agree with you. And of course, you're always an authority on yourself. So if you're utilizing some of your own experiences, even if you just did it at that level, then you have something to offer, don't you?
Exactly.
Brilliant. So thinking about this, you work with a range of different people. How do they find you? What makes them come to you? How do they know about you?
At the moment, because this is quite a new business, so this started in September. So I put my program together. I put my first students, my beta students, through it around December time. It's now, the program is now out of beta. I've got full paying students who are going through the program right now. So at the moment, it's just word of mouth. I think it's mainly a lot of from what I've been hearing from my students, what they really like is, it's one of two things. Some of them, it's more an emotional level. I think they've got to know me, and they've realized that I'm the recipient of the kinds of work that they do, and they resonate with somebody who could potentially have been one of their clients a few years ago. So, there's that element of it. The other element is more from a practical point of view. What I offer is it's an all under one umbrella service. So what I found is there's a lot of book coaches out there who will teach you how to write a really good book, but then you can either choose them, or you can go to somebody else for the editing. You could assign your own. There's all these decisions to be made. And I had a really, sadly, a bad experience last summer where a friend of mine, I was putting together my program, and a friend of mine offered to be my very first guinea pig. Not even a beta student, because this wasn't even a program then.
Yeah.
It was literally, I just had Word documents of the different steps. And he volunteered to be my guinea pig. So I went through it with him in the summer. He wrote a fantastic book within 6 weeks. But at that stage, I didn't even have a program. So I didn't have an editor. I didn't have a designer. I didn't have any of those things. However, with me being in the book industry, I had like a little black book of really good people. So I gave him my black book and said, here you go, ring all these people, see who you resonate with, and then get your book done. He went away, came back about 3 months later. I've done my book. It was the biggest mess I've ever seen. He basically didn't look through my black book, or he did, and he really thought that it was far too expensive. That was a big red flag for me, that I need to let people know what the average rates are for an editor, for a publisher, because some people just don't even have a ballpark figure.
No.
He obviously didn't. He went to Fiverr and Odesk. Yeah, I can see your face, Gina.
Yeah.
And then obviously found an editor and thought, oh, look, there's an editor who can do my book for $200. And Mitali's editor is charging $1,500. I'll go with the guy from Odesk. No, don't go with the guy from Odesk. He managed to get his whole book done in under $1,000. That says it all. So this work, his book was just a mess. And then I had this awful moment where he, bless him, he asked me if it was okay if he dedicated the book to me. And I wanted the earth to just split up and swallow me up, Gina, but I had to say, please don't. You're going to destroy my reputation before my business has even started. And I felt so horrible telling a friend that, but I had to.
Was it a conversation where he could recognize the power of what you had to say? Because not only is it your reputation, but ultimately he's putting something out there that he's then going to have to live with that as his first book.
Exactly. He understood. And I just said, look, I have a reputation to uphold, and it's a new business as well. So I want to start on the right foot. And, we have the saying, don't judge a book by its cover, but we do. We do judge a book by its cover, and the interior layout, all of those things. It's not just the content of the book that matters. It's got to look professional as well. So he understood that, and he's now looking into getting the book redone. I don't know how long that's going to take him to do it, but it was, in a strange way, even though it was a bad experience, it turned into a good experience, because it informed me for my program. I decided, no, I want an all-in program where people come in on day one, zero writing experience. I coach them on planning, and writing and doing a developmental edit of their book. And then I now have a team of editors, publishers, graphic designers, so I can keep an eye on the quality, because I just don't want to experience that again, where a student goes off and then decides to cut corners.
Yeah.
So, I just need to, some people might think I'm a bit of a control freak, but I've even had some people say, oh, but why don't you offer, you can offer your 90-day program, but why don't you offer just the book coaching at a lower price? And I've refused that, because I just thought, no, I want to control the whole thing. Because what I'm trying to do is create authorities. My whole business is based on, I'm trying to take coaches, consultants, and speakers. My nickname has turned into the authority creator. Well, unfortunately, being an authority isn't just about the content. Your book needs to look right as well. And that's not going to happen if you cut corners. And the only way I'm going to make sure people don't cut corners is if I don't let them do it in the first place. So you don't get a choice with me.
Interestingly, we're moving into a new paradigm, aren't we? Where the old ways of being are being challenged, and for a lot of the, quite rightly. What's the advice in terms of those people who think, I've got plenty to offer, but and I've got a book in me. So writing the book is one thing, but writing the book, in my experience, and I've written a few, writing a book is just one part of it. You've then got to get it out there. So what's your advice then? You've written the book, you've gone through your program, you've got a great product, and it's on Amazon, and you've done print on demand, and you've got the book. Now what?
The answer to that is, you should have thought about that before you even write the book. What I do with my students is, the first week they're with me, we're not discussing the book. We're discussing, my phrase is, so I'm waving a magic wand. It's 90 days later now, and you have a published book in your hands.
Yep.
What does the world look like to you? What are you doing with the book? Because this is all about you envisaging what the book can do for you. It's not, I always say, it's not the book business you're getting into. That's a separate business. That's for fiction writers, memoir writers. For that business, the book itself is the moneymaker. Whereas with business books, the book isn't the moneymaker. Mm-hmm. You're just happy to if you break even on your books, you're doing well. It's the key to the treasure. It's building your authority so you can charge higher fees. You start attracting higher ticket clients. You start having collaborations. There's one lady I wrote a book for in the States, and she's a financial planner, and she mentions an accounting software in her book. And then what she did is, after I wrote the book and she published it, she started leveraging the book. She used it to get speaking gigs on stages all around the United States of America. And then once she'd done that, this software firm heard that she was not promoting them, but saying nice things about them in their book. So they called her and said, hey, would you like to be our spokesperson? She gets paid around $200,000 a year. Nice. Just to go around, and she talks about 10 times a year. Obviously not last year, she wouldn't have with the pandemic, but she was talking, and she gets paid 200, that's like a tertiary income for her.
Yeah,
definitely. And it's collaborations like that you can't even imagine until you've written a book. Yeah. Doors just open for you. I always say, it's not the doors that open for you. There's doors that you didn't even realize existed that start opening for you. So I always say to my students, what do you think of, you've already got the book, what are you doing with it? Are you using it to get speaking gigs? Are you going to use sort of direct mail response ads or something with it? There's so many different ways of leveraging the book, and I can be here. Actually, that's the subject of my book that's coming out next week, and that's all about, I interviewed all of my clients and I asked them, what did you do with your book? And I recorded every single strategy, every single tip that they gave me. I've recorded it into my book. So now if anybody does have a book, they can just read my book, The Freedom Master Plan, and start implementing those strategies. But yeah, I would say, to answer that question, Jane, I would say what you shouldn't be doing is getting to the stage where it's already on Amazon, and now you're thinking, what am I going to do with the book? It's all like, you should have thought about that right at the beginning, because that informs what actually goes into your book. Yeah. It informs the whole structure of your book.
It's interesting because my first two books I wrote, I was a head teacher for 21 years and I left headship in 2004. And wanted to break into the corporate world. But of course, at that time, not so much now, even though that my school budget was $1.5 million, I employed 100 people. The view of the business world was, what do you know about business? You know, you're from education. You're only from education.
Only. I got
that. And the school was on the best 100 schools in the country twice. And I'd been an advisor for the DFES, all sorts of things. And so I wrote 2 books to be my very expensive calling card. One, kickstart your career for those people going into the world of work, how to be the professional grown-up pretty quickly. And the other, manage your staff more effectively, which was a distillation of all of the things that I'd done with my own school and with dozens of other schools to develop excellence. And that's what got me work. That talking to people, talking about the book, sending them the books and saying, hey, this is who I am. And that opened doors that hitherto had been very firmly shut. So I know from personal experience that the power that when you talk about having books and being able to use them in different ways, Thriving Not Surviving, for example, was written so it could be given digitally free. As I hadn't, when I started Genuinely You, I didn't have a database because
I've used it to build a database.
Yeah, so absolutely know from experience that these things work.
Yeah.
Sukhdev, before we sort of start wrapping this up, have you got questions that you'd like to ask Mitali?
Yeah, so Mitali's doing some, like I said, we've been connected for a little bit. We've been, you want to share something that your students get by joining your course and the power behind some of the things that they get with you that others may not be getting? We're doing some pretty cool things. And do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think I've already explained the major thing is everything's done under one roof. So I think from the feedback I'm getting from my current students, that's a relief for them. It's just they know that once they're in my program, it's all handled. It's not going to be, oh, now I have to think about hiring a graphic designer, or now I have to think about, oh, I need 2 separate publishers for my paperback and I need it for my, but a lot of people don't even realize that it's 2 separate jobs. You know, you have Kindle conversions and then you have paperback. It's 2 things that 2 separate people do. I think it's one of the things that really puts people off. There's a lot of people who want to write a book, but all the technical side of it, they just go, oh, this is going to take so much time for me to get my head around. They just give up. And It's just so nice to know that they can come into my program. It's all handled. All you have to do is just follow my program, follow my coaching, plan, write, and do a full developmental edit of your book, which you will be shown step by step how to do it. And we handle all the technical side of it. And the other thing I like doing is I got very good at getting, well, you'll know this, you'll experience this soon, Sukhdev. So I've got very good at writing press releases. So I'm very good at getting my clients featured on the major US networks like Fox, ABC, CBS, NBC. Again, it's all about that authority. That's all it is. And I'm a big believer that, I think you'll agree with me, Gina, perception is everything. Sadly, I wish we lived in a world where it wasn't just about perception, it was on merit, but it's not, it doesn't work that way. With my clients, it's not like when I was ghostwriting books for my clients, it's not like suddenly they become a published author and suddenly they were 10 times better at what they did. No. They remained as good as they were before, but now they're charging 5 to 10 times more because the perception is, you must be so much better. And this is going back full circle to what we started off with, Gina, that, you know, that giving yourself permission to be an authority. It is you. It's not getting more qualifications. It's not having more years of experience or, you know, getting an award from somewhere. It's not, you've got to decide, I'm good enough to be an authority. Because with all of my clients, they were able to increase their fees, build second and tertiary income streams. They weren't actually any more clever or more qualified than before they were a published author. So the citations from the major US networks, that just is a catalyst. That gives you even more authority straight away. Oh, that person's been featured on
Yeah.
Fox. Oh, that person's been featured on ABC. So there's a number of things we do. And one of the other really nice things that I do in my program is in the final week of the program, we do have an individual brainstorming session where what Gina talked about, you know, what are you going to do with the book? Now, the good news is because I asked that question at the beginning of the program, by the time we have that final session, they've usually got they've almost kind of got a plan of what they want to do. We just put it out on paper, because I'm a big believer that when things stay in your brain, you don't always action them. But if you put it out on paper or put it onto a Word document, just the process of systemizing it and bringing it out of your brain, I tend to find people stick to it, because, you know, it is all about leverage. I've met so many people who either they themselves believed it or somebody's told them that they can just stick a book on Amazon and suddenly the world will stop turning on its axis and think they're amazing.
If
It doesn't
only.
work.
If
If
only.
only. It does not work. I think somebody told me a few weeks ago that worldwide, just under 3,000 books a day are uploaded onto Amazon.
Yeah.
You can't just stick a book on there and then suddenly expect the world to change. You've got to get out there and talk about it. You've got to leverage it. That's the key. If you don't do that, good luck.
Yeah.
You're not going to
There's a couple of things that we're doing. In September, we have one of the things that is really special for people who sign up with your course. There's an opportunity that's being offered. Do you want to touch on that?
Oh yeah, so this is Spotlight with Mary Buffett. Yeah. So that would be amazing because, well, you know, who doesn't know Mary Buffett really? So that is wonderful. That's something that my students are definitely going to be excited about, because again, it's leverage. I keep going back to this thing of perception, but it's all about perception. You're pictured next to Mary Buffett, you're seen on the same level as her. So you could be somebody who's, you know, a life coach, for example, who's only earning £50,000 a year or $50,000 a year, but you become a published author and then you're featured next to Mary Buffett. Now the world thinks, damn, this is somebody to watch. And, you know, I do say I wish we lived in a world where it was more based on merit. But I don't know, there's something about us human beings. Maybe there's so many of us, we just need a shorthand. And seeing people with, you know, citations, a published author, they're shorthand for this person really knows what they're talking about. They have to be better than this other strategy consultant, life coach, fitness consultant, motivational speaker, whatever it is. It's a shorthand, and sometimes that shorthand isn't even correct, but it is a shorthand. And worldwide, people do just respect published authors. So yeah, I'm thankful for that. Sorry,
there's so much white noise out there. I can understand why people need a shorthand, because you know, lots of people will go on a 2-hour course, and anybody can actually set themselves up as a coach. But if you've got the commitment to write a book, and that you've actually got enough internal knowledge to write a book, it is at least some level of measure as to whether that person is serious or not.
Absolutely. Well, writing a book isn't easy. I mean, I make it as easy as possible.
It's a huge commitment.
It's not easy. Yeah,
No.
it's a huge undertaking. And I think it just shows people that, yeah, this person is serious.
In business, don't you?
Yeah.
That actually you've got something to offer. Whether it's the right thing for you, then you have to determine that. But it's a good starting point, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. And I'm thankful for that, Sukhdev, because that is going to be wonderful for my students. It's all about leverage, you know, and they're now published authors, and then they're in the spotlight with Mary Buffett. That's going to make such a huge difference to their network and how people perceive them. And that's what it's all about. It's all about collaborations. And I would hope that after being, well, I'm sure it will happen. I don't hope, I know it will happen, that after being featured next to Mary Buffett, the phone's going to start ringing from other people who say, hey, I want to work with you. And that's how it snowballs. All you need is one collaboration, and then somebody else hears about it and they go, hey, I want a piece of the action. And then somebody else rings, and that's how it happens.
It sounds great. So we're reaching the end of our time. Where can people get hold of you?
Okay, so I'm sure you guys, I will give you all my links so you can add them all. So I've got my website, thefreedommasterplan.com. My book is going to be out next Friday, so Friday the 12th of March.
So can I just stop you, because by the time this is actually published, it will be
Oh
books will
gosh,
be published because there's a time delay. So
yes.
just
So
give us
yeah,
the title again so people can go and look on Amazon and find it.
it's called the Freedom Master Plan, and it's available on all the major. It will be available on all the major platforms. So co.uk, com, the Australian one, the Netherlands one, and all these platforms that Amazon now have. And yeah, I think I would say this is a really good book, because if you haven't written a book yet and you're on the fence, you're wondering, would it really work for my business? Then the Freedom Master Plan, you can actually look at all the tips and strategies and start to think, well, would this work for my business? So it's a really good way for you to find out. So you can read the book and decide, I don't think this will work for my business. That's fine. At least you didn't actually go down. Yeah, you've not wasted time, energy, money, So I think it'd be good if you are thinking, or if you're on the fence of writing a business book, whether it really will work with your business. If you're already an author, and unfortunately you're one of those people who were led to believe you can just stick something on Amazon and suddenly the world will stop turning, and you're realizing, right, that book didn't do anything for me. My book, the Freedom Master Plan, will give you all the strategies you need to start leveraging your book, so you actually start to get the book to do what you want it to do in the first place.
Sounds absolutely brilliant. Sukhdev, before we finish, is there anything else you'd like to ask?
Nothing more to ask. I think we covered quite a bit. If people wanted to sign up for your courses, you're only taking X amount of students per year. Where can they sign up?
It's if they go to my website, thefreedommasterplan.com, and it's all there. It's all there. So I offer the 90-day program. I can only take on 5 students a month, because my brain will explode if I had to deal with 5 different people with 5 different books at any one time. So I'd love to take on more, but I physically can't. So it's 5 students a month that I take on. And also for authors as well, if there are authors out there who would like citations. So I talked about press releases that I can do that will get them featured on the major US networks. I can do that for authors as well. So again, it's on the website, and it just means if you want your book to be cited, so you can add as seen on Fox or as seen on ABC on your book, I can do that for you as well. But everything's on the website.
So thank you very much indeed. It's been brilliant. And I've no doubt this conversation is going to continue outside this show, but thank you very much. Thank you for listening, watching, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode. So goodbye, take care, and see you next time.